Hi, today is Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. I'm sitting on a chair in a small park next to Soseok that's a Soseok church. Since I gave up my right to park my car inside my company's underground parking lot, I parked my car at a church and I came to work early, so I just didn't go. I haven't went into the office yet, so I got like 40 minutes to spare, and it takes 10 minutes to walk from this church to my office. So basically, I have 30 minutes to practice English. So that's why I'm sitting in a chair on a chair, in a small, relatively quiet, small, very small park next to the church. And church has the small hockey, baseball, slash other playground. So I'm just watching over the playground while sitting on a small plastic chair. Yesterday, I got interested in the tinctures, uh, was tinctures, uh, a broth, what was it? Decoctions, infusions, decoctions, tinctures, and when the substance maceration, right? Maceration. So basically, you get interested in the food. So even though I've learned English so many years, I still got confused about stew, stock, soup, broth, bouillon, and all sorts of other expressions words that I learned yesterday, like infusions, teas, decoctions, concoctions, tinctures, and maceration, not masturbation or not laceration, but maceration. So let's learn the difference between broth, stew, soup, and other words that are used in the culinary nutrition or kitchen business. This article is from Farmers Markets snm.org. I think this is like a association. So it will be a very brief, short reading. I'm trying to read this English article as a part of my endeavor to practice English by reading an English article each day. The English article could be of length of 20 to 30 minutes reading. And since I am Korean, I need to constantly practice English to stay on par, stay above the water, to be in the top shape. So here we go. From broth to stew, what's the difference? No one is born knowing how to cook. Yeah, the possibilities become endless. Like everything else, cooking must be learned, including the tools, techniques, and terminology that go along with the craft. The terminology can sometimes be confusing, especially when definitions provided by online sources conflict or unclear. Is it bouillon or stock, broth or soup? And does it make a difference anyway? Well, yes and no. Well, yes and no. When it comes to cooking, knowing definitions, including the difference between these 6 frequently confused terms, can definitely help a new or rusty cook read the recipes and increase their kitchen comfort. What's the grammatically? Can definitely help a new or rusty cook Okay, read recipes and increase their kitchen comfort. One interesting thing to understand is that terminology shifts through time. Terminology shifts through time. If you look at a cookbook from the 1940s, you will see that bouillon or bouillon was a clear soup made from meat, while a recipe printed online last year might refer to bouillon as the condensed flavor cubes found in the spice aisle of grocery stores, but it's easier and healthier to make your own. Bouillon is a stack. Yeah, as the condensed flavor cubes, condensed flavor cubes, condensed flavor cubes, condensed flavor cubes. In general, however, each of these terms involve gently cooking meats, bones, vegetables, and other ingredients in liquid with subtle variations. Broth is a thin soup made of the water in which flavor-enhancing ingredients like meat, vegetables, and herbs and spices have been simmered. The liquid is strained after cooking to remove the flavoring ingredients. The broth can be served on its own or used as the base for a heartier soup or stew. Heartier, like we learned the expression hearty seed. Heart. Heartier means very fulfilling experience, taste, feeling. A heartier soup or stew. In this way, the terms broth and soup can sometimes be used interchangeably, but broths are always 100% liquid. Broth can be eaten on its own or as a base for soups or stews. Broth, soups, it can be eaten on its own or as a base for soups and stews, So heartier soup or stew, let's remember the expression, a heartier soup or stew, Stack can be made from meat, poultry, fish, game, and vegetables. Meat, poultry, fish, game, vegetables. Game means the wild animal meat. Wild animals like a deer, rabbit, hog. Brown stock is made from beef, while white stock is made from chicken. Fish stock and vegetable stock get their names from their main ingredients. Fish stock, vegetable stock share their names sometimes, get their names from their main ingredients. In general, stock is cooked for a longer period than broth to extract as much flavor as possible from the ingredients. Beef bone broth, for example, is simmered for several days to extract the gelatin from the bones. Beef bone broth, for example, is simmered for several days to extract the gelatin from the bones, which make it a stock and not a broth. But like a broth, stock is strained to remove the cooking ingredients. Stock is strained to remove the cooking ingredients. The stock is strained. We learn the expression strain the liquid. Stock is strained to remove the cooking ingredients which have given up their flavors to the stock. To give up the goods to us. To give up the goods. Which have given up their flavors to the stock. Bouillon or bouillon is a French, is a concentrated stock or an intensely packed flavoring ingredient that can be added to soups, stews, and sauces, even sauces. This bouillon can be stored in the freezer and spooned spooned as needed. As needed here, as needed has a hyphen between them. Spooned was spooned as needed in many recipes to add a flavorful punch. To add a flavorful punch. The word bouillon or bouillon is currently more closely associated with a flavor-packed ingredient than a concentrated stock, though the later usage of the term is not uncommon. So bouillon stock is more like a evaporated stew, evaporated broth. But bouillon or bouillon is more flavorful. It adds a flavorful punch to the stews, broths, sauces, and what else? Soups, right? Bouillon is a concentrated stock or an intensely packed flavoring ingredient. Cosomme, what is the pronunciation? Cosomme, many French words. No Korean words?
Consomme.
Consomme.
Consomme. Consomme.
Consomme.
Consomme. Consomme.
Consomme, clear soup. Consomme is a type of clear soup made from richly flavored stock or broth that has been clarified, a process that uses egg whites to remove fat and sediment. Oh, really? Consomme is a double-strength brown stock made from 2 or more kinds of meat and lots of seasonings. After cooking, it is clarified using egg whites, then strained. The clarification, cheesecloth, the clarification process where the egg whites bind to small floating particles, then float to the top where they can be strained off. Is largely what separates consomme from bouillon. So bouillon or bouillon. So bouillon from bouillon or bouillon. It's a kind of a consomme, is a kind of a bouillon, but it uses egg whites to strain, to bind to the maybe oily substance, and you can strain them off because the combined ingredients float to the top. You can strain them off easily. So it uses egg whites and it's called consomme. It's a double strength brown stock made from 2 or more kinds of meat and lots of seasonings. Consomme. Can means together, right? So it's more than 2 meat or ingredients. Soup comes in a wide variety, from clear to cream, to chowders, to biscuits, and even to a fruit. Really, or I think the pronunciation is biscuit, like a basque. In Spain,
Bisque.
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 bisque, bisque. Soup comes in a wide variety, from clear to cream, to chowders to bisques, and even to fruit. Some are served hot and some cold. Some are eaten hot, spooned. Some are served hot and some cold, and some either way. Soups are best made using flavorful broths or stocks as a base. Flavorful broths or stocks as a base. Overall, all soups fall into one of three groups. 1. Thin, clear soups like broths, stocks, and consomme. 2. Thin, light cream soups like a cream of tomato, asparagus, pea, or even lettuce. 3. Thick, heavy soups like chowders and bisques. Stews are cooked long and slow, with vegetables being added during the last half hour or so they retain their color and shape. So they can retain their color and shape. So they can not maintain, but retain their color and shape. Followed by Christina Kabler. Stew, so there was a soup. Stew is the result of the cooking method called stewing, which produces a specific dish that differs from soup. For instance, with cooking methods like grilling, roasting, and frying, the meat or vegetables are meant to contain and envelop the juices of the food. When stewing, low temperatures between 150 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit are used to draw juices out of meats and vegetables, so the food is swimming in the juices. Stews are typically cooked long and slow. With vegetables being added in the last 30 minutes, so they are not cooked to death. They retain the color and shape. Examples of stews include green chili stew, pozole, goulash, and beef stew, to name a few, by Christina Kabler. So since the cooking methods are different from country to country, from culture to culture, it would be difficult to pinpoint the name of the dish you are eating. But basically, according to the American or French styles of cooking, there's a broth first. Broth is more like a sagol in Korean. Sagol, yuksu or sagol is basically broth. Then when you cook further the broth, like evaporating the liquid, you have basically the solid stuff like chocolate, for example, and it is called stock, right? Stock. It makes sense. Stock. And when you use egg whites to strain further ingredients that would combine and float to the top, it is called consomme. And consommes use two or more ingredients, two or more meat stuff. So consommes can be considered as more flavorful punch to the food. Broth is more like a commodity, right? Broth. When the sagol and yuksu coagulates, it becomes broth. The pig fat is a form of a broth, a form of stock, right? If you add more seasonings, then it becomes consommes. And the soup is more light than stew. but nonetheless it gets simmered, and the soup can be eaten hot or cold, or in other words, soups and stews can be served hot and cold depending on your preference. And soup, basically soup has three types under it. One is thin, clear soups like broths, stocks, and consomme. And thin, light cream soups like a cream of tomato, asparagus, pea, and even lettuce. So 야채죽, cream soup, 버섯 soup. When you go to buffet, 그 buffet 가면 그 있잖아요. 그 cream soup 이런 것도 다 숲이다 얘기죠. Thick, heavy soups like chowders and bisques. Chowders and bisques and also belong to soup. Stew is more much heavier because it goes through the longer cooking. And in the last 30 minutes or so, vegetables are added to retain their shape and flavor. They are not cooked to death, but stew is thicker than the soup. So let's further find out what the chowders and bisques. But there are 9 comments. Barbara Feeney says, thanks for the clarification between the terms. These words are helpful. Krishna says, we are so glad that you found it helpful. Michael says, that is very helpful. Thank you. Krishna says, you're welcome. Thank you for commenting. Peter Murphy says, always wondered. No, I know. Thanks. What the? Found this really interesting and informative. Have any of you got a really old-fashioned broth or stew recipe like made many years ago? Hi Diane, we are so glad you enjoy this. Check out the recipes. We've got pozole rojo, which is a stew recipe with a long history in NM, New Mexico. A recipe on how to make bouillon and more. Abigail David Museme says, I think well articulated, it was helpful. Thank you for making it clear about these terms and the meaning. So this New Mexico Farmers Market Association, New Mexico NM, New Mexico's Farmers Marketing Association. Let's find out who is the author. Krishna Kibler or Kabler. Kibler would be much better, right? New Mexico Farmers Association. So let's go over the article briefly to pick up the expressions that we learned. Float to the top, strained, provide a flavorful punch, more concentrated, definitely help. Understand, bouillon or bouillon have 2 pronunciations, even though it's just French. French people would pronounce it bouillon, broth, ingredients, interchangeably. Served hot and cold in general, stock. Strained to remove the cooking ingredients which have given up their flavors to the stock. But like a broth, stock is strained to remove the cooking ingredients which have given up their flavors to the stock. Which have given up their flavors to the stock. But like a broth, stock is strained to get the ingredients off, to remove the ingredients, cooking ingredients, which have given up their flavors to the stock. Bouillon, more closely associated with a flavor-packed ingredient. Consomme, soup, right? 3 steps. Stew. So next time we need to learn what the chowders and bisque is. Chowder is like a clam chowders. It uses cream and it's thick. It's more like a thick, but it's not a pasta soup, but it has more meat. And bisques sounds like a biscuit. So we will check them out later. Thanks for listening and take care and have a wonderful Thursday.